Hey guys, welcome to the Positive Experience podcast, where we look at the good, the bad and the ugly in living your best life. Today's segment is on the H.E.A.D'S. The acronym stands for Health Experts and Disruptors. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, I'm Aarvi and today's host from the Positive Experience, and this segment is H.E.A.D'S, Health Experts and Disruptors. So we got my great friend Ben here from H2H Physio. I actually met Ben down at Nationals for touch rugby, and you know when you meet someone and you just get along straight away, that was us. We pretty much started sharing our love stories from straight off the bat, 5 minutes in, and yeah. So all right, so we'll get straight into it, Ben. Do you want to sort of give us an introduction of like where you were born, where you grew up, your schooling?
Yeah, mate, of course. Yeah, well, first, mate, Aarvi, thanks for having me on, mate. It means a lot to be asked on the ProPhysio podcast, the Positive Experience podcast. Obviously, been looking forward to this moment. Been trying to get together now for a while, and it's obviously finally come to a head. Mate, like you said, we met a while ago up at the NTLs in the where was it? It was up north, was it up the coast, and had plenty of fun. And straight away, obviously, sort of footy and talking about, like you said, talking about beers and chicks and all the rest of it. And doing well now. We're button heads as physio, so it's good to see. But yeah, Ben Eisenhuth is my name. I'm the founder and director of H2H Physiotherapy down here in Castle Hill in Sydney, New South Wales. The business is quite in its infancy still. It started in April of 2020, and because of the COVID, I guess, experience, we'll say, a lot of my patients needed to continue their physiotherapy. We were quite fearful of coming to the hospital and coming to a private practice setting. So H2H standing for Health to Home Physiotherapy, I thought, well, I'll bring the physio to them. And that's what I continue to do today. And luckily for me, a good friend of mine who owns Cook's Plumbing has given me a space to operate out of, and that's where I find myself today. And luckily I can run both a clinic and also the home mobile physiotherapy as well, with a bunch of contractors working for me as well. So it's going really well, mate.
Oh, that's good. So you sort of touched on what's your current, where are you living at the moment? Is it still, are you living in Castle Hill or?
Yeah. So I reside in Cremorne, so in the North Sydney region, so a little bit closer to the city where we can, me and my roommate Gaz can have a bit more fun. And then, you know, I've grown up in the hills my whole life. So in the Hills District of Castle Hill, lived there for 27 years. Ironically, I moved out to Cremorne at the start of this year in 2020, and then COVID struck, the business began, and now I actually operate out of Castle Hill. So I've travelled away from home to travel back to home to work, but it works out well. I have a lot of links with a lot of footy clubs and netball clubs and gymnastics clubs and high schools around the Hills area. So the business is prospering because of those connections that I've built over 27 years. And luckily for me now, I get to enjoy living in North Sydney in Cremorne, and then I get that nice drive up the M2 back to the hills. And yeah, I enjoy the commute. It gives me a chance to wake up and to listen to podcasts like the Positive Experience, which motivates me every day. So it's a nice transition, and it's been smooth thus far.
Yeah, great. Is that Paul Gallen I see in the background?
Could be. Yeah, there's a big left of it, but it is the big G train, mate. He's had a few niggles over the years, and obviously you see the big Sharks tattoo on his left bicep, which is pretty large. But yeah, obviously being a boxer and footy player, and my cousin, he's asked for some advice over the years, and that was just a marketing day actually. But yeah, we've changed information and details and trained together over the years, and mate, he's been very supportive of me, and yeah, I've helped him out with a few things over the years as well, which is good.
All right, cool. So might go a little bit rewind back. What did you do for work before you became a physio?
So luckily for me, I was able to get an ATAR. Like in New South Wales, it's like a HSC ATAR, which meant I got the mark to get straight into physiotherapy to study. Oh God, I had thousands of jobs making my way through. I worked at the Jewel Christmas tree farm with Leo. That was quite a fun experience. Plenty of spiders, which I'm not a fan of. I'm not arachnophobic, but I'm certainly not a fan of the spiders. Worked at the Sydney Aquatic Centre in Homebush. I got my massage degree, so I was a masseuse there. Customer service officer, lifeguard, personal trainer. I've done my PT as well. I've always loved the idea of the health profession and helping people. And then, what else have I done? God, I actually kind of started emceeing and commentating sport, and I still do that today on the side, which is a lot of fun. And I like to dribble and talk a bit of rubbish, and calling sport another passion of mine. But I've had many jobs, from Christmas tree farms to work at the Homebush Aquatic Centre where the 2000 Olympic Games were. Always been involved in sports coverage, first aiding and doing a lot of strapping and sports coverage work with a lot of football sides and soccer teams and high schools. So I've always been around that area since I was 16, 17, and studying physio, it gave me the base to have an understanding. And being 28 now, I've got a better understanding, but there's a lot more to learn, as we both know, about being a physio and in this profession, which is exciting. I love waking up to that thought each and every day. But so I've had many a job. I said, from up trees to saving people in a pool to massaging a big 180 kilo Samoan fobber at the aquatic centre. So I've pretty much done it, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You had a dip in every cuisine pretty much. So what's your main passion or work that's sort of driving you at the moment?
It's funny you asked this, mate. One of my best mate came to me the other day, and he wants to get into physio. And one of the questions he was asked, that he'll get asked in, ironically, a Zoom meeting, was why do you want to become a physiotherapist? Why do you want to choose the Bachelor of Physiotherapy or Masters of Physiotherapy in his case, to undergo studying it for the next 2 years, 3 years? And they got a bit of feedback and said that questions that don't appeal to the university, the UTS, is more so things like, sorry mate, can I be one sec. The one thing that I guess didn't appeal to them was the simple questions of, you treat, you massage, you assess injuries, I guess looking at it quite narrow-mindedly. And my biggest passion, I think, has actually really just, I guess, luxuriously fallen into my lap in the last couple of months, where I've been approached by SMA, Sports Medicine Australia, to start lecturing for them, and to actually go to high schools and educate on, assessing and managing concussions, assessing and managing injuries, and also strapping and educating on strapping. And I think the biggest thing that I find is the most, motivational, trait that physios can encompass is the fact that every day we get to have a positive effect on other people's lives. And I consider myself, and obviously you, and that's why we're such good mates and why we connected, only 18 months ago when we first met, was because we're both positive people. It's very easy to get sucked into the negativity of life, especially in the current climate. But people come to you, obviously, with 9 times out of 10, in fact, 9 out of 100, they come with pain. And like you said, pain is sadly a negative experience. Ironically, they're contrary to your podcast. And I find that as physios, our goal is to not only, reverse 180 cycle that negative experience into a positive one, and to try and turn pain into a positive experience, but educating them on how they can do that themselves eventually down the track. So I love the fact that, I learn every day. I can, pass those experiences on to other health professionals, students, doctors, surgeons, learn from them, be a sponge in that regard, but also give them a bit of my experiences as well. And I'm really looking forward to doing that in the near future with a lot of high school students with Sports Medicine Australia. So, man, I think, my biggest passion is mentoring, educating, but mainly, just the ability to be a sponge, just how much we interact with humans every day. You may not learn about something that has necessarily to do with your profession itself, but there's always a life lesson from someone out there, regardless if they're 18 or 80. I think you can always learn from someone. I think human beings aren't very good at taking information on and absorbing information, but that's certainly something that I'm really glad that I'm able to do in the profession of physio, which is great.
Oh, it's great. There's a lot of great gems you already shouted out there. Being a sponge is probably the biggest one, because there's always room for us to learn and keep going, and there's so much room for improvement. You being 7 years out and you're still learning, me being a couple of years out and I'm still learning, and there's so much to learn, because it's not just physio-based, but outside, like psychology, everything, because you're pretty much a mentor to these people coming in with pain. So it's a lot of these things. So you got a lot going on. So how do you normally plan your week or your day or even month?
Great question. I've I've always been a very structured person. I've needed structure, and when I don't, I fall off the Richter scale, so to speak. My mum's always told me from a kid, if I didn't have a timetable or a structure, I'd go a bit crazy. And then, I guess sadly now I'm not playing, footy anymore, not playing legal unions, so that weekly structure of sports kind of fallen away. But yeah, for me, I use that Clinico, the Clinico app. That's my software that I use to book patients in and to track people's notes and files and whatnot, and actually use that as my diary now. I just have an unavailable block that will tell me I've got a christening, or I've got, a Zoom meeting with a great Aarvi, things like that. So I really have to stick to a very structured timetable, which, like you said, can be days at a time or months in advance. I'm certainly someone that I need to always have to look forward to something. I think it's really important in life that you can go through the motions, but if you have something to look forward to, it could be as simple as a coffee with a mate, could be as simple as I said, chatting with a great man from ProPhysio, but always looking forward to something. It's really important. So I always make sure that every week, it's as simple as, spending time with my girlfriend, or, going to watch the footy with a mate, having a round of golf. I think it's always important, even though, you can work as hard as you want, you can live to work, but it's really important to work to live. And I really make sure that I do that every day and every week, and sometimes every month, because with SMA, the Sport for Australia stuff happening in term 4 when year 11's going to year 12s, into year 12 here in New South Wales in particular, there's a lot of stuff happening. So I like to really put things in writing, chuck it into Clinico software, and I know what I've got coming up, and it helps me plan my week, but also, makes me look forward to other things and go from there.
All right. Sounds good. Structure is probably the biggest point there, because especially when you got structure, you can get a lot more things done. And I sort of stick, because we use Clinico down here as well, and it makes it a lot easier. And I'm pretty much doing the same. I scratched in podcast/Ben on mine, so I knew I had a podcast with Ben coming up. All right. So is there any personal war stories or setbacks or injuries you've had that you sort of want to discuss, and like a lesson you learned from it?
Yeah, mate, there's probably plenty. I probably had injuries, like I'm no Paul Gallen. Certainly sit here and pretend that injuries have stopped me from going on to having a career in NRL or anything like that. Luckily for me, I did play a bit of junior reps and some high school sport, and I did have a neck injury that took me away from the sport. Of rugby league at the time. I think that my biggest life lesson has been, human beings, and I guess this can transition into physio with tissues. But I think human beings are a very adaptable species, but we don't like to adapt to our surroundings all that much. And I think it's just because we've become very complacent. Human beings love, as much as we love structure, we love routine. And when that's disrupted, people don't like that. So when injuries occur, like what happened with my neck in 2012, I was taken to hospital. I had, 3 injections over 21 days and cortisone. There was discussions of surgeries, and I had 3 or 4 doctors say, you'll never play sport ever again, and then all the rest of it. And, I've gone back and played a few rugby sevens tournaments with mates and mucked around, and I haven't played week to week because, as you know, we do a lot of sports coverage on weekends, and I guess the career took over as opposed to, the enjoyment factor. But I'm going to play again next year, stupidly, much to the dismay of my family, but that's another story. But I find human beings, we're a very adaptable species, and the best way to adapt, I feel, is just to communicate. There's always someone out there who can give you that small bit of advice, even though they may say, like I tend to do, 1,000 words in a minute. I think there could be 2 or 3 phrases that you may even just learn and may even just sponge off, like we spoke about, and that could just transition really nicely and smoothly into your day or into your current climate. And every day, like I've treated some amazing human beings. Like, after this, I'm going to do a home visit with an 84-year-old Vietnam War vet, and some of the life lessons he subconsciously tells me, like situations where he's seen 2 deceased wives, and then he's just found out in the last month that his last wife was, doing the dirty on him for 20 years, and he's still the most positive bloke. He really is. He often says to me, he says that every obstacle placed in front of me is just another learning experience, another chance to not only just like move forward from it, adapt, conquer it, and be successful. So for such a, I guess an 84-year-old man who's, got a really debilitating total knee replacement, he's had cellulitis and all these infections, and he's just still so positive with news that's very fresh and very, very raw. His ability to kind of, I guess, give me that 2 cents worth is, I like to take into the next week. And that's why I love my profession so much, because next week I know there'll be another bit of advice I'll hear from someone else that I'll go, you know what, that actually motivates me a little bit more to think that maybe, you know, the 2 hours sleep I got last night because I was up texting Aarvi about the Roosters till 12 p.m., you know. Yeah, that's going to help me motivate me to, you know, have a positive effect on someone else's life. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say there's war stories, and mate, we all go through things in life. But one of the best quotes I've ever heard is about, I think, and hasn't got much to do with physio all that much, but the truth never gets you in trouble long term, only short term, but lies get you in trouble long term. It was a good mate of mine, one of my trades mates, told me that quote. And I think it's very important because even in our careers, we can kind of be a bit fraudulent, a little bit, hesitant to tell people the truth. But even though it may hurt early on, sometimes it's nice to hear the raw truth, and you can adapt to it like human beings do, and move forward a lot quicker than the delayed, maybe worsening that can happen down the track. So that's my little quote that I like to kind of apply with honesty.
Yeah, great. Because my mum actually says that quote to me as well, and it's really stuck with me because I'm trying to be as truthful as possible, even when I don't really know stuff with some patients coming in. Instead of me just making some gibberish up, I'm pretty much like, yeah, sorry, I don't know. I'll look into it, or I'll follow up. And the other point you raised about the adaptable species, I think that's a big one because we're always adapting. Like even people that believe in evolution from where we came to where we are now, it's all adapted and we're still adapting. Everyone's stuck on these Fortnite games and stuff now, then who knows what the trend will be later down the track. All right. Is there any tips or tricks you have for the audience listening, like our top 3 physio or top 3 anything?
Probably the first tip I always like to say, and I say this to every student. I've got a student at the moment from Sydney University who's shadowing me around. And the biggest tip I gave her, never be afraid to refer. I guess health professionals, are very afraid to do that. I don't know why, I understand. I guess I do know why. Is you don't want to feel like you can't help someone. You don't want to feel like, you know, you're undervalued, or, you know, you feel someone else can do a better job than you. But every month I would refer to another physio, because there's always someone out there who may know that little bit more than me, who may be able to help someone that little bit better than me. And I'm okay with that. That's life. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm not confident in myself as a physiotherapist or as a health professional or as a person. It's the fact that I know that there's people out there who I'm very good friends with, very loyal with, and trust, that I'm going to refer them. You know, TMJ patients, for example. You know, I'm quite, infant, once again is the word, and, you know, junior in regards to learning TMJ stuff. And I get a lot of referrals from a dentist up the road. And then there's a guy, Craig, who works at another physio clinic, and I refer to him if I can't get them right in 2 or 3 sessions all the time. You know, there's a lot of physios around here that refer me a lot of shoulders, because I do a lot of shoulder rehabilitation work, and I have a lot of equipment here that can allow me to do that. So I think that's the biggest tip, is never be afraid to refer, never be afraid to kind of let your guard down and say, you know, maybe there is someone out there in the physio trade, in the medical trade, you know, someone else that can always help. And, you know, I don't like the, you know, we hate chiros kind of mentality, because some chiros are fantastic health professionals. Their ability, I think their justification is awful. I will very much say that, and I'll bold, italic, and underline it. Not everyone, again, I'm not going to group them all, but the ability to have to make our human bodies as perfect and aligned as we can is just outrageous. You know, you look at greatest athletes of all time, Gabriel Celesi, one of the greatest distance runners of all time, you know, had the most awful pronation of 35 degrees inversion, like crazy amounts of things. And, you know, they're saying that you've got to have, you know, you've got to wear orthotics for any form of pronation in the feet. You know, Jessica Schipper had the worst scoliosis, 60 degrees scoliosis, and won gold games. There's human beings, once again, we're adaptable. We adapt to our environment physically, mentally, you know, socially. It really frustrates me when people, I guess, try and make us perfect, because we're not. No one is. No one ever will be, physically, mentally. And I think that's, I'm dribbling on here, but that's the biggest thing I tell students, is never be afraid to refer. You know, adding on to that, I think tips and trades is I guess always have a purpose for anything. Clients in particular, you know, when you come to, you know, my quote is ensuring excellence in everything we do. That doesn't need to be the holistic approach, the whole approach. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to get you to Michael Phelps's level or Usain Bolt's level. I'm saying that, you're coming to see me because you can't lift your arm. Well, my goal is to, all right, why do you want to lift your arm? You know, what are you trying to achieve by lifting your arm? Right? I want to be able to comb my hair pain free. I want to be able to, you know, I don't know, chop a few branches down in the backyard. I want to be able to play tennis or squash or golf or those kind of things. All right, well, what can we do? How can we break that goal down? How can we break that movement pattern down in order to achieve that goal? How long will it take? Be very objective with clients. And it's really important to give someone a goal, work towards it and achieve it. And if you don't achieve it in that time, why haven't you achieved it? And just justify it. Some people don't like the chat that we have, but 9 times out of 10, people do. People like having things explained to them, and people really like to understand what is happening and why they're not improving or why they are improving. Because they go on and they'll tell Joseph down the road, and then Joseph will tell Marita, and then Marita will come back, and then that's how the referral network happens, and that's how the positive experience really starts to be ascertained. So they're probably the biggest 2 things that I like to tell my clients, students, and I guess tell myself every day too.
Yeah, for sure. I think they'll never be afraid to refer is a big one. Even myself, like there's been a lot of, like, I had a patient with thoracic outlet syndrome, TOS. Don't know much about it. Straight away referred him on to a neurospecialist, and she's on the road to recovery, because otherwise I would have just kept going with my physio work and made no progress because my diagnosis would have been incorrect or something like that. So a really good point. Yeah. And sorry, cut out there, Ben.
I was going to say, I had a TOS the other week, and treated them for about 6 or 7 sessions, no change, complete paresthesia, numbness in the hand, and went and saw one of the gurus down the road, Craig Harris, who's the bloke that injected Cooper Cronk all those years ago in the grand final. He just said that, he should just an accessory rib, and just had a rib dissection, and symptoms were away literally in the ICU, just completely after surgery. So, something that people could have tried to manage and monitor non-invasively, went and saw Craig, had the rib dissection, quite very minimally, and it's surgery, so it is invasive, quite a minimal surgery, and ticked the box, and off she went, and no symptoms since, which is really good. And then once again, I've had a few referrals from her, from people saying, Ben referred me on, got me better indirectly, and then it's a bit of a positive flow-on effect from there as well.
Yeah, for sure, because it always comes back to you, because you're the one that sort of gave them the guidance, made them go there, and still you didn't fix them primarily, but you had a hand in it, and that means a lot to the person that's getting the recovery, because as soon as they're 100%, they're still going to thank you because you took them on the road to recovery. So
that's what I'll say as well, mate, is I think 9 times out of 10 physios get people better by giving them the ability to get better themselves. Like I always have people say to me, thanks, mate, you helped me get better. And yes, of course we do, because we have the knowledge and the ability to, give that advice or manage that load or do whatever we need to do, or assess and diagnose and manage. But we just give the clients the ability to get better themselves. And then the body starts to repair itself if it is those kind of injuries. So it's really important to put the onus, I like to put the onus back on the patient, because then the patient feels as though they've been successful with something too. And then once again, they have a positive experience with physio. They have a positive experience in their day. And it just flows on from there. And that's why I love the name of your podcast, because it is so much about, providing a positive experience, because you hear a lot of negative things every day. You can do one thing wrong and a million things right. The only thing you'll hear about is that one thing wrong. So you can kind of put the onus back on the client that they've helped themselves. And that's always a really good outcome too.
Yeah, for sure. That's similar to what the media is doing out in Victoria. All they're talking about is the negative and they're with all this lockdown stuff, but you just got to get the positives, and that's what makes your day. Because if you keep dwelling on the negative, it's just going to make your day a lot more sadder, and you won't be able to move forward. So that's why the positive experience, like Ben mentioned, always look for the positives. All right, so you probably like this question. What's a common myth about physio or the field that we're in that you'd like to debunk?
The common myth, I think, about physio is that, I don't know, physios probably hate me for saying this, that we need physio. And what I mean by that is that human beings have the ability to get better on their own. They just don't know how to. And I think the biggest thing is that physios tend to really, really expel and really almost make a client feel as though without a physiotherapist that they cannot do anything. And that's what really upsets me and really frustrates me. Even other things, I know specialists and chiros, again, I'm not bagging them, but because I said I do love them, but they can always say, do not perform deadlifts ever again. Do not run ever again. Do not back squat ever again, And then one of my first ever boss was a guy named Aaron Lewis, and he's the smartest man I've ever met. I'll say that till I'm blue in the face. He was an amazing physio. And I remember he said to me one day, he goes, "Would you tell that client to squat?" I had like a meniscal irritation. I said, "Oh, probably not. It might irritate them." It was my first day in the job. And he goes, "Get out." I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Get out of my office." Anyway, and he laughed anyway. And then he goes, "Do me a favor and sit in that chair." I said, "All right." And he goes, "Stand up." And he goes, "How many times did you do that today?" I said, "Oh, I said, quite a bit." And he goes, "Well, if that lady can't squat, how is she supposed to sit on the toilet? How is she supposed to sit in a chair? How is she supposed to get out of bed in the morning?" Little things like that. And it made a lot of sense that, as physios, all we're doing is we're just literally helping someone move again. You don't necessarily need to give them 46,000 Bulgarian split squats and load their calf and do all these crazy things. It's about the fact that as we get older, we like a wrinkle in our skin. Our body just can't move in the same position as regularly anymore. So we're giving it the ability to move either in a different way or adapting to that movement in a bit more of a, I guess, almost a safer modality, or a bit more of a load-focused modality too, where maybe it's the capacity of the tissue was at 25% and it needed to be at 50 because that's what they were asking of it. So I think it's really important. That's the biggest thing I want to debunk, that as human beings, we don't need to massage that infraspinatus to free up range every single week for the next 12 months. We don't need to, get them yanking on their knee to get knee flexion, every single day for the next 12 months, to try and help them walk up and down stairs. At the end of the day, we need to give these humans, put the onus on them, put the onus on our clients and our patients to say to them, "This is how you get better. I'm going to guide you there. I'm going to manage you as best as I can. But unless you're willing to put in the work, there's going to be, it's just not going to be sustainable in the future." So I think the ability that physios, you have to see a physio every time you get pain is probably something that, I'd like to try and debunk. It's a very challenging, I think, experience and a very challenging thing that's happening at the moment. But with the help of the positive experience and the great man Aarvi, I reckon we're a good way away to potentially maybe debunking it, as you said.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good start somewhere, because even the great Stuart McGill says the exact same thing, what you mentioned there, because we're trying to just get the functionality happening, because sometimes by just giving them education on how to move right, will deload their spine completely if they're having some disc pain, because no point me just digging around doing some hands-on, because we're not actually fixing the primary problem that caused the issue. And most cases, that's what most physios look past, and they don't even go down to the simple stuff like your boss in the early days just asked about the squat, because like we squat pretty much day in, day out. And if you can't do that properly, you're obviously irritating the pain straight away. So yeah, definitely agree with that point, and I'm going to push that as well. So good chat there. All right, Ben. So quick fire questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of random questions. Might be off topic, but we'll see what you say. All right. Do you prefer a night out or Netflix?
Depends who you're with. Night out.
True. Nepal or New York?
Oh, New York.
New York. Are you Android or iOS?
iOS.
Would you prefer to dine in or delivery?
Nah, dine in.
Yeah. All right. Theme park or water park?
Ooh, need to do more sit-ups. Theme park.
All right. Is money or free time?
Oh, depends what you do in the free time. Free time's the best thing ever, but you can't play 18 holes of golf for less than $70 where I live. So,
sunrise or sunset?
Sunset. I'm not a morning person.
Yeah. All right. What TV sitcom family would you be a member of?
Family Guy.
Nice, Peter Griffin. All right. What fashion trend do you just not get?
Once upon a time, ripped jeans, but I've adapted like the human tissue. I've adapted. What I don't get is dressing like John Lennon. People dress like John Lennon, like this long hair, bloody skivvy turtleneck like kit. I think my dad had send me away when I'm out of home. He'd invite me back home and kick me out again over all of that.
All right. So if you were to pick one person that you're following online, can you tell us who and why?
Oh mate, it's biased. I love Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I love him. Obviously, he's the guru. He's the rock bottom. I love my wrestling, and The Rock's the greatest. But one thing I love about him, he's such a positive guy. He's got so many lessons to give. He's $7 Productions, obviously had $7 in his wallet, living on the street, and luckily for him, he had familial, obviously, heritage in the WWE, and then he went on to obviously become the greatest of all time, now the most successful box office superstar, in history. So I just love his quotes, his one-liners, how hard he works. He's, the guy's in his 40s, and he wakes up at 4 o'clock every day, runs off 4 hours sleep, and he's a dad, and he's a great husband, so he seems, and he's the GOAT. I think he's an amazing man and an amazing role model to all. But the other thing, in regards to physio, Adam Meekins, give him a follow if you don't already.
Yeah,
he is. I love him. I love Adam Meekins a lot. I've actually got a chance to meet him. But one thing about him is he loves highlighting problems. He's not very good at suggesting solutions. And that's one thing I don't really love all that much about his Instagram, because he bunks a lot of myths, as you know. Don't massage, don't touch, it's the client, onus. But he never really suggests how to get someone better. This is how you don't get them better, but he never really suggests how to get them better. And I think as a physio coming up to the ranks, his Instagram page can confuse you a lot. But if you want to, have a bit of a piss take and have a laugh, go watch Meekins. And he's quite a smart bloke. He's very intellectual and very knowledgeable. So his page is quite informative, but a bit of fun at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm always going his page. There's always people commenting and just talking about it. It's always pretty much like an argumentative Instagram page, but still debunking all the myths that we sort of touched on earlier. And because I also listen to his the NAF podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so pretty good. It's actually good. He knows his stuff, so he's just not making it up. He actually knows what he's saying. But like you mentioned, probably does need to talk on the evidence. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. No, he's a character. He's a good listener. Like you said, I've listened to that podcast a couple of times. He's very funny.
Yeah. All right. What advice did you get that was the most rewarding?
Firstly, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong. I mean, that was really, really good. Once upon a time, I hated being wrong. I think it's okay to accept that you're wrong and you do things wrong and you make mistakes. That's really important. Probably one of my best mates told me this, and it's probably one of the greatest, probably not even quotes, just I really, if I ever got a tattoo, I'd probably get it on me somewhere. Not on my bicep, they're not big enough like gals, but I think the only things we can control are the things we do and the things we say. And one thing we can't control are our emotions, but how we react to them. So I really like that quote. And I think human beings really try and control things that are out of their control. We really focus on things that are out of our control. But I think at the end of the day we'll get an emotion to anything. We'll get an emotion to this podcast right now. And if I can really cope with the outcome, which is outstanding, I love it, and not react to it too aggressively by talking to you for the next 4 hours because I haven't spoken to you in 8. But, and I think just really focusing on just controlling the things you do and what you say, I think are really important. It'll get you through, I think, a lot of challenges in life, in relationships, and I think also in friendships and business. I think it's like that I hold true. I'm not great at. I think human beings are obviously always going to get focused on things we don't have rather than things we do. But if you can kind of be grateful every day for the amazing things that you do have rather than the one or two things you don't, then I think you're halfway there to a happy and fulfilling life.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the control bit, especially in Victoria, us being in lockdown. Can't really control being in lockdown, but being in stage 4. But what we can control is just trying to be happy, do some exercise, do something little, short-term goals to sort of just get you by. Because I know a lot of people are suffering mentally at the moment, but we're all going to get through this together. And so it's just trying to change things that you can actually control. How can we change our mood to be happier? What makes us happier? Or even try things that we haven't really done before. So I really, really like that point.
It's funny. I'll quickly comment on that because I work closely with Oak Hill College down here in Castleville on like an anti-bullying campaign. And I read a stat the other day in an email that said that Lifeline revealed some statistics, and they had 5 times the amount of phone calls from 11-year-olds to 19-year-olds in 2020 versus 2019, 5 times more. And I don't know the exact number, but regardless, that's a significant jump. And they actually found that the conversations weren't actually in regards to suicide or being depressed, but were someone to talk to. And I found that really interesting and intriguing, and that as human beings, we get so focused on, banter. We get very focused on Instagram and social media and videos and photos, and we communicate via, I guess, obviously you and me teach on a lot about the Roosters and physio things as well. But one thing I loved about our chat the other day was we just had a chat about how you're going. You've had a tough run lately. You asked me how I was going, and people just don't do that anymore. Like, how you going, mate? Like, what's been happening? And I think as humans, even though we can have so many friends and so many different groups of friends and people around you, is that we really struggle to actually sit down and go, how's your day been? What's been happening? It doesn't even need to be that formal. Just crack a cold beer, always a schooner in you. Thanks very much. $6.50 at the tab. And you just crack a beer, have a chat. And I think it's something that we really struggle to do. And I think that's why me and my girlfriend are doing really well at the moment, because we just chat. Like, even if we're getting better at 12 o'clock at night, we've had a busy day. It's just like, I haven't spoken to her today. Like, how's your day been? What's been happening? And it may have been, oh God, it's fine, but at least you've opened you for communication. I think that's one thing that humans need to get better at, because the ability to have a one-on-one chat these days at the moment is so much more available, but we're still not taking advantage of it. And those statistics just reveal that too.
Yeah, for sure. Especially all this stuff going on, and everyone's too fed up in their screens instead of just looking up and just being like, hey, how are you? How's your day? Just a simple word. That's all you need to say. Then you can go back to your screens. I definitely agree. Right. We need to do a lot more of that. All right. What advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours, like physio? Anyone in the health profession?
Yeah, probably the same information, same advice I gave my roommate literally the other day, and literally 40 minutes ago before we started this podcast. It's pretty simple. As a physio, it is the most diverse profession going around. It's incredible. Even just from the treatment, diagnostic, and the actual being a physiotherapist, you can work in aged care facilities, you can work in universities, you can work at high schools, SMA, private practices, you work in public settings, you work in sports coverage, strapping, assessing, concussion physiotherapists these days, TMJ physios, you can work with dentists, you can work in medical centers. It's so diverse, it's awesome. I remember when I started physio, and you'd probably be the same, I just thought, you go to physio, you learn about sports injuries, you learn how to treat and assess an ankle injury, and you go home. It's that simple. And then you learn about burns physio and cardiorespiratory, neurological science. You learn about the healthcare ethics as well. You learn about the diversity that physio has to offer. If you're getting in the profession to make money, I'll tell you now, it's not the profession for that. Even if you want to run a private practice, the best private practices that I know, and I guess I'm going to plug and toot my own horn here, are the ones that don't try and flog themselves. I'm okay treating 40, 50 clients a week. That's heaps for me. That's fine. I don't want 4 patients in an hour. I don't need that. Who needs that? How do you get to know someone? How do you get to spend time with someone and actually understand who they are, how they want to get better, and how you can help them get better? You physically can't do it. No one could. Doctors as well, they're terrible at it. They get people in, they just funnel them in, they double book, they run around, they're an hour late. I understand it's a business and you need to be a businessman to make money, especially living in Sydney and Melbourne where houses are ridiculously expensive. But at the end of the day, wrong profession. Go and be a Sparky and go and charge crazy amounts and do those things as well. I just think if you want to be a physio, you've got to want to firstly help someone. You've got to be a positive person or have a positive background, because you're going to hear a lot of negative things every single day of your life, and you've got to leave your shit at home. That's one thing. I work with a lot of people who don't. They bring it to work. I certainly do sometimes too, but then you hear the first story of the day about a lot worse position than you. Yeah. And I think the third is that you just got to learn and be a sponge. You're going to learn every day of your life things you don't want to hear, that someone's not getting better, that, there was a car down the street that said, oh, he's doing the wrong thing. He shouldn't be doing squats or deadlifts. He's not ready for it. He's ready to be loaded in that position. That's okay. Cool. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that information. I'll take it on board and I'll do how I please with it. So yeah, you've got to be a sponge. You've got to not want to be in it for the money. And I think the most beautiful thing about physio is that it's so diverse and there's so many avenues we can go down.
Yeah, for sure. That was probably one of the biggest reasons I got in once I actually started studying, learning about, because I always sports physio, that's what I'm going to go do. But when you actually go into uni, there's cardio, there's neuro, you're actually like, oh, geez, I didn't know this. If I get sick of one of them, I can go do something else and I'm still in the physio and I don't need to study. So that's the biggest thing. And definitely agree with the money situation. Not great money, but as long as we enjoy what we're doing, I think that's more important, because money will come after, as long as you're enjoying it. And that's
make money, like you said. If you run a business, you certainly can make money. If you're good enough at what you do, you can charge as you please. But I think it's just getting into that mentality of, seeing 100 patients a week, and seeing 4 or 5 appointments in an hour, and all those crazy things. It's just that's not the profession. That's not what physio is about. Again, this is just my how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So would you like to tell us something that you're doing or that you'd like to share with the audience, like any seminars or promotions or any giveaways?
Mate, well, I guess obviously it's a brand new business, H2H Physiotherapy. We're down here on Hudson Avenue on Castle Hill. There's plenty happening in the new year and over the Christmas period. I'm starting my own podcast, actually, H.E.A.D'S to Hudson, with some pretty cool, it's going to be me, obviously, as a head interviewer, as a background in sports commentary, emceeing and MC for the city. I like to think that I can talk a bit of rubbish, but interviewing, the likes of Manish Gupta and Boo Balala and Myron Sutherson, who are local specialists and surgeons around here. Also interviewing Craig Harris, who's an amazing doctor in Castle Hill. He's obviously the one, like I touched on earlier, who injected Craig Harris at halftime and got a police escort. And I'm going to ask him plenty about that. Corey name is enough of information. James Tedesco, Luke Keary, Victor Radley, Paul Gallen, just things like that. I have a lot of different people on it. Patrick Lane, the strength and conditioning coach for the Roosters. So luckily, I'm going to have a lot of unique people on the podcast. Some in the health profession, others that are just for athletes. But the whole idea of it, H2H, the name of the podcast is H.E.A.D'S to Hudson. Hudson Avenue is where we are. And it's just really going to be talking about people's experiences within the health profession, and they're just their suggestions on how they coped with trauma and bad events, like when Gal did a syndesmosis through the ASADA scandal, all those kinds of things as well, which I'm obviously going to, as a customer, ask him as much as I want. How much he tells, though, I'm not too sure, and he's got to get the ticket approval from Channel 9, but that's another story. But mate, there's obviously, for me, it's a brand new business. I'm very happy with where it's at. If you want to follow us on Instagram, H2H Physiotherapist, give us a look at our website. I'm always more than happy to answer questions to anyone that has any. And at the end of the day, it's a new business, happy where it's at. But give us a follow if you're in the Hills area and you want to have a chat, swing on by. I'm always here to have a yarn, or if you want to come in and get an injury looked at or anything like that, and stay tuned for the podcast at the end of 2020.
Sounds good. A lot happening. We'll see how you juggle all these things. So what you touched on a little bit earlier is the best way to reach you on Instagram, H2H Physio, or?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, send me an email, Ben at H2HPhysiotherapy.com.au, or Instagram, just H2H Physiotherapy, just one word. Actually, it might be H2H_physiotherapy on Instagram. H2H_physiotherapy. There we go. Right. So follow us on Instagram. Yeah, if you've got any questions, just flick us a direct message, and I'm more than happy to have a chat or whatever. And most mates usually give me a bit of stick anyway with the direct message. But a lot of the time, it's always clients asking questions and giving some good feedback, which is always nice to hear as well.
All right, great. Thanks for that. Ben, I've got a final question for you. Awesome. What does the positive experience mean to you?
Mate, great question. The positive experience, I like the emphasis on the positive experience to me, mate, I think is the journey, is the start, the middle, and the finish. And it's making sure that anytime, this is the biggest thing I like to do, anytime anyone does anything with you, for you, against you, is just justifying why and giving them no questions to ask any more questions. So I always like to make sure that when a client comes to see me, that any question that they may have had, I've answered. I give them the ability to ask before, during, and after. So they email me before, they can ask me throughout the session. I give them the ability to access me afterwards in an email, or give me a phone call and ask as well, because I think there's always going to be questions about certain experiences that we're going to need to follow up on. And a lot of the time, we go to the doctor and we're like, God, physio told me to ask this, that, and you forget. And I think it's always important to follow up with clients. And that's why I'm really lucky. I've only got 30 or 40 clients a week, which is all I want, because it gives me the ability to have a relationship with clients. Some of my patients I'm going out having beers with now, I'm playing golf with, a lot of them are, telling all their relatives and family about me. And that's how I'm getting busier, not because I'm the greatest physio in the world. I'm very confident in what I do, but it's because I make sure that all my clients, exactly as you said, have a positive experience. They enjoy my company, I enjoy theirs, and there's no questions when they leave the clinic, and if there is, I'm always there to answer them.
All right, perfect. Thanks for your time, Ben. That was a great chat. We debunked a great myth there as well, and some top 3 tips. Might have another chat in 6 months' time, see how your podcast is going. We've got some great guests that'll be coming on there. So thanks for your time again. Cheers.
Number one is you. If the boys pull the plug, you'll be on first and your wrist is getting home.